Yeah, all good.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Cool. Do you wanna kick us off with an intro, John?
I can kick us off. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking all about why we believe that we are all a little bit over reliant, maybe overly addicted to PPC, and why we might be wasting some money in some campaigns. How can we find those campaigns and then reduce that wastage to unlock more budgets for SEO, because SEO is changing hugely at the moment. We've got GEO, AIEO, SEO, AI, whatever acronym you want to give it. There's loads of different names. So we're going to be trying to unlock that today. Please ask questions in the chat throughout, and we can answer those as we go, or we can have time for Q&A at the end. Dan and I have actually both delivered similar versions of this. Dan delivered a similar version of this presentation in San Diego to sort of over 400 SEO specialists, and I did one at the similar Brighton SEO. So we've had a lot of positive feedback. So hopefully you're in for some insight and some great content. But first of all, we should introduce ourselves, Dan.
There we go.
So I'm John Redman. I'm founder of Modo25 and Ask Bosco. I'm also heavily involved in a charity called One More Child, which is an orphanage in Uganda. And actually, we named our business after one of the children from the orphanage, and our software is actually named after the gentleman who runs the orphanage. And we're organising this round the world bike ride where actually this year we've just hit £2 million raised to help change the lives of hundreds of children. And my background has always been in marketing technology and agencies. So hopefully I've got lots of experience that I can and knowledge to share with you. So we've already got questions coming in. So anyway, so that's me. Dan.
Yeah, hi, so I'm Dan Akers. My digital marketing career goes back nearly 13 years now, where I started as a PPC exec at Search Laboratory. So that's how I know John. My first proper job, as I always call it, outside of uni. And yeah, kind of came into that with a vague understanding of what PPC is to where I am today. So I'm heading up the agency team at Modo25. So that's our in-housing and agency services, and obviously we're sort of really big users of the first users of Ask Bosco, which is our in-house marketing platform, which is available to sort of other direct users and agencies as well. And a lot of the data that we're going to be taking you through today has come from Ask Bosco and other sources as well, and verify some of the figures that we're going to be talking about. Um, and yeah, I guess it's an interesting one for me because whilst I do now sort of head sort of the overall agency side, I come from a PPC background. So um, I'm here today kind of talking a little bit about how to spend less on PPC, which is an interesting one. Not a totally out of the ordinary one for us because we are always chatting to our clients and partners about making sure that they've got the right mix of media and the right mix of channels. But it's certainly not one that goes down too well when we've got the regular calls with our Google reps who are trying to encourage us to spend as much as possible.
And yeah, if so, we thought we were going to have this at the end, but we thought some of you might not stay to the end. So if you don't stay to the end, if you scan this QR code now, you can sign up for a free AI SEO audit, and we'll give you a view on where you're at with your AI SEO visibility and give you some pointers on how you can improve that. So if you scan that QR code, register for that, completely free, no strings attached. And thank you very much for joining the session.
Cool. So to begin with, I'm taking us back to when I started those 13 years ago as a PPC exec, and a bit of a look at what the search results looked like back then. So yeah, a lot of change really. I mean, there's some things that are the same now, and sort of obviously the branding side of things, the Google logo's changed, but very sort of similar fundamentally in terms of sort of logo background, that sort of thing. But Some of the biggest changes, really. Here, looking, as I say, 12, 13 years ago, you've got really nice distinction between your PPC ads and your organic results. And you've got sort of your shopping listings on the right hand side there. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that stands out here to people who aren't familiar with this or kind of can't remember what it used to be like is, I would say, that real clear distinction between PPC ads and the SEO results directly below them. Compared to today, or at least very recently, this is sort of what the typical results look like for the same search. So actually reduced the number of PPC ads in this example down from three to one. But actually, the real estate, as we like to refer to it, of the PPC activity has increased significantly. So that one ad is actually taking up more of the above the fold on the page than the three PPC ads were previously. And as I say, that box that kind of made the PPC ads quite distinct has now moved away. We've got an increase in the number of shopping results. So all of this is Google's effort to make PPC more prominent in the search results, drive PPC clicks, and then, of course, drive their own revenue. So there's been some big changes over those 12 years, but despite this, organic results do consistently drive higher click-through rates, and you can see here this example. Obviously, this one's a smaller single PPC ad, but the click-through rate on a single PPC ad on average around 2%, whereas looking at your click-through rate of those top three organic results, all outperforming that. So nearly 40% for a first place organic result versus that 2%, 2 to 3% for your PPC results. So yeah, despite the fact that Google really are pushing more and more traffic towards paid results, there's a level of trust in the organic results that a lot of users have that just isn't there for the paid side, whether that's they're being burned by sort of poor PPC landing pages in the past, or just a sort of a lack of trust of kind of Google's monetization of the results. There is trust in the organic results that you don't get from PPC ads, which is really reflected in those click-through rates. And then I guess, as everyone's aware, now the next biggest change, and certainly the most sort of fundamental change in the 12 years of my career is the introduction of AI overviews. So we are going to chat a bit about ChatGPT and other LLMs and sort of platforms outside Google, but just, I guess, focusing to begin with on Google itself. And yeah, this significant change here, AI overviews dominating what would traditionally have been an organic dominated result. So a lot of these more informational terms in particular now, whilst we previously would have had maybe a single PPC ad and organic results, we've now got AI overviews and a single PPC result. So as a big concern from a lot of people in the industry about what that means for click-through rate on organic results, because if you think about that one we showed before, you'd still be getting single PPC ad, you might be getting a 40% click-through rate on organic, whereas here, if a user's not scrolling below the fold, they're getting their information from an AI overview and then they're being directed to ads. So big change. No organic results above the fold. So what does that mean? Some data here from Ahrefs, and analysis over 150,000 keywords. Analysis over 300,000 keywords and 150,000 of those showing AI overviews. And yeah, the results here showing that there's been almost a 35% drop in click-through rate over the last year. And this is literally just, well, you can see there, March 24 to March 25, but a 1 year period, a 35% drop in click-through rate that has specifically been attributed to the impact of AI overviews. So these are terms that we know are showing AI overviews now, and what impact that's had on click-through rate. So as I say, huge decline in organic click-through rate, which is reflected in a lot of businesses' data in Search Console. So the big standout point here is probably around September last year, which is when there was a rollout from Google and a bigger push towards more AI overviews in results. Obviously, it's not been sort of a single sort of point in time where this has been rolled out across all industries, all terms. It is something that's increasing more and more from from what we've seen over the last 12 months. But you can see there for this particular client, big drop in September 24, which is when we identified a large number of the terms that we were previously ranking well for organically were beginning to show AI overviews. So yeah, seemingly overnight for certain clients, we've seen double-digit drops in click-through rate for what were previously really high-performing organic campaigns. And as I say, it is a growing problem, and I've not got a sort of more up-to-date data for later on this year, but even just looking at Q1 this year, the percentage of queries showing AI overviews increased from 6% to 13%. So even if those click-through rates stay exactly as they are between AI overviews and organic results, the fact that more terms are showing AI overviews now mean that more businesses are going to be affected with it and affected by it and affected by it more over time. And yeah, in certain industries now, some sources are quoting up to 47% of searches triggering AI overview. So really huge growth over the last year in terms of how often they're showing. So I guess going back to what we're here to talk about a little bit, and why is this an opportunity to shift budget from PPC to SEO, and how are we practically doing this? So one thing that we like to talk about is how PPC is the instant hit, and it delivers the results here and now. It's typically been the most trackable channel, so easier to report on, easier to scale. I suppose that easy to report on makes it a good opportunity for a channel to get more budget available to, because you've got the numbers there in front of you, money in, money out, and yeah, this idea of it being more easily scalable. But while PPC is the instant hit, SEO is the long game. It can be the long game. It can be months of work with seemingly no results, waiting eagerly for all that hard work to be recognized by Google, and nothing to show in the meantime. And yeah, I think John used this phrase at the beginning of the webinar, but lots of companies are addicted to that PPC instant hit and continuing to push more and more budget into Google Ads and other ad platforms without considering one, the long-term value of that traffic and of the brand, and also of the diminishing returns of the channel. So what are some of the problems as we see it with PPC, certainly over the last year or so? So rising CPCs and declining ROIs. And we've got a few figures from Ask Bosco and from WordStream on some of the impact of those over the last year or so as well. Privacy laws and cookie tracking are having a significant impact on PPC as well. So I talked before about how that trackability and reporting was one of the reasons why it was the easier channel to scale and the easier channel to access more budget from. But that is changing, and it's something that businesses need to be aware of. And I'd say potentially the biggest problem with PPC is that over reliance of bottom of funnel. So even if it's not sale activity, it's kind of mopping up that demand, and it's your shopping results that are very price centric and driving just those customers who are price focused, and those customers who are also looking to make an instant decision versus building a brand and building loyalty and a loyal customer base. So as I say, starting with some of the figures in terms of changes in PPC over the last few years. So this is from WordStream's annual PPC benchmarking report. The last one of these is looking at, was updated in April, looking at April to March, up to March 25. This is looking at over 16,000 campaigns, and you can see there over the last 2 years, there's been notable increases in CPC. So from 23 to 24, 10% increase, and then a further 13% increase from 24 to 25. So together over the last 2 years, just a 25% increase in CPC over what is, relatively speaking, a short period of time. So even if all things remain the same, that alone is a big effect on the return from PPC and diminishing returns of the channel. And obviously that has an impact on CPAs. So again, big increase in CPAs on average from 23 to 24, rose nearly 25%. A lesser increase from 2024 to 2025, where average CPA only increased 5%. So going back, I said there was a 13% increase in CPC, but only a 5% increase in CPA overall. So that does suggest that traffic quality is potentially improving, conversion rates are certainly improving, but that's still a 30% increase in CPA over a 2 year period. And as I say, those last figures are from WordStream, and we're seeing the same across our own database of our agency clients, but also the broader client base using Ask Bosco, so other agencies and direct users of Ask Bosco itself. And this is specifically looking at figures from Black Friday. So for Black Friday just gone, so last week versus Black Friday 2024, on average, we saw 17% increase in CPCs on PMAX campaigns, which was the most largely scaled campaign type over that period as well. And similarly, we've also taken a look at what is the breakdown of traffic over Black Friday 2024 versus 2025. And again, this is sort of something that we are highlighting to our clients and our partners as a problem. That paid is scaling, and lots of business are getting their scale and year-on-year increases through putting more and more budget into paid, despite the diminishing returns. But actually, the proportion of revenue driven through PPC, shopping, PMAX campaigns rose proportionally from 35% to 39%. Meanwhile, directs dropped from 14% to 12%. Sorry, SEO dropped from 14 to 12%, and direct dropped from 20% to 11%. So again, already there you can see some of the things that we're talking about, where PPC is kind of this instant hit, and obviously Black Friday itself is a sale period, so you're going to have a lot of sort of discount focused consumers. But that drop in the proportion of revenue coming from SEO, but also direct in this case as well, is very concerning, because that direct customer base is where you should be finding most of your loyal customers returning direct. And if that's diminishing over time, it's only going to get worse and worse as more and more reliance gets put on PPC. So one of the other things that I mentioned as
I was
sorry, were
just
you going
going
to
to
add something to
say
that,
there,
John?
Dan. I was I was just going to say there, and I know we haven't got the data. It'd be interesting to see how during the Black Friday cyber sort of weekend, how many people are bidding more on their own brand and actually just paying for brand traffic, either to protect their brand, or is it the PPC team trying to claim the credit over the SEO team? Because if direct's gone down that much, maybe people were just cranking up their brand. But that's
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's something that I think we could get the data for that. Maybe we can
Yeah,
add it as
it'd
an
be interesting. Yeah, it'd be
an
interesting just
addendum.
to
Yeah.
see. I remember years ago with when we used to work with Argos that when PPC team were behind on their target, they would just turn back on brand, and then the SEO team would get really upset.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah. Sorry for
Um,
interrupting.
no. It's a good point. And I think it's something that we can pull that data together as well for, and I guess it ties into later sort of the PPC versus SEO report that we use on Aspbosco as well, and something that we can do there and that we do recommend for a lot of our clients is testing on pausing PPC or reducing PPC, CPCs, and actually understanding a lot of this always just ties back to incrementality. And I think incrementality at account level, but also campaign level, isn't something that is assessed enough on PPC campaigns. It's always that final, your overall ROAS, rather than, okay, well, what's the incremental ROAS on that last £1,000 spent, £10,000 spent, whatever it is. Um, as I mentioned, what sort of one of the other issues hitting PPC at the moment and affecting efficiency, or at least perceived efficiency, is updates in terms of privacy and cookie consent. There's been a lot of back and forth on what Google themselves are specifically doing with Chrome. I'm talking about fully phasing out cookies completely. But whilst Google have cancelled their full killing of cookies, there have been a lot of other updates that are impacting the trackability of PPC. So, I mean, one of the things, and it's certainly not one of the main takeaways from the webinar, but I think something that's worth considering is use of server-side tracking and whether you are using that to get a true picture of PPC. It is getting more and more difficult to get a clear picture. We're seeing bigger and bigger discrepancies between sales taken and what's actually reported in Google Analytics, what's reported in Google Ads. So yeah, what one smaller takeaway from this is for your PPC efficiency, are you using server-side tracking? But also that server-side tracking is going to, if implemented correctly, feed into your other channels as well, give you a better understanding of organic and other channels rather than those sales being missed completely or bucketed in direct traffic. Certainly something to think about. And yeah, I think the sort of third and final kind of big problem with PPC that I highlighted was this, and I think this is a really important one in this discussion, and it's that sort of short-term sales uplift versus brand building and long-time growth and long-time building a brand and building a customer base. So this was an analysis from the IPA, so the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising. So this was looking at almost 1,000 campaigns across 700 brands, and yeah, really identified that short-term sales activation is driving spikes in sales and spikes in revenue, but not that long-term brand growth. And this is where, as I say, your sale activity, your performance max, your bottom of funnel stuff is really driving sales through PPC, but those customers aren't going to return. The next time they go to purchase the same product or similar product, something that you offer, they're going to repeat the same process. They're going to do a search. They're going to see who's there here and now for in Google Shopping or in Google Ads. Whereas brand activity and building a brand and building trust is has that long-term benefit. And as we'll come on to in a bit more detail, that growing trust is a key point that can be done through AI overviews and LLMs. And this is something that Google are trying to, I suppose, themselves. Again, they're trying to action this with more budget, I suppose, demand gen, more upper funnel activity, even some elements of PMAX. But ultimately, as I say, kind of one of the key things that we want to focus on is how AI overviews and SEO in general can drive that brand growth and drive that traffic. And to me, this is actually a good thing. This is obviously the drop in organic click-through rate is alarming, but if you're building that trust through AI overviews, it's going to be more and more traffic driven through AI overviews in general, and that's giving brands the opportunity to increase their visibility for that longer term brand growth. And one of the big things, there's a lot of discussion sort of in the industry at the moment of SEO or GEO or AI optimization. And there's, I don't think anyone at this stage has got, I know nobody at this stage has a final formula of exactly what falls into SEO versus GEO and what we need to do for AI overviews versus ChatGPT and AI overviews versus typical SEO. But generally speaking, the majority of best practices that we've been talking about for a long, long time on SEO sit within both of these. So helpful content, up-to-date content, authority signals, EAT, all of these things fit into both SEO and GEO. So ultimately, right now, as we're saying, is a good time to invest more into SEO because you're not just getting those benefits from SEO that you've always been getting, but you're now getting the added benefit of those things impacting AI mode, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those things filtering into these additional channels, if you want to call them channels, alongside improvement in your organic positioning. We're not saying that one-to-one. It is worth mentioning that there are some areas which we suggest you give higher prioritization than others for SEO. So these are some of the things that we picked out and that we're chatting to our partners about with regards to optimizing for AI specifically. And again, all of these do fit within the SEO bucket, but there are also things that we would prioritize more so for AI. And also a big one, and this is it's an interesting one. John mentioned we did this talk at Brighton SEO in Brighton and in San Diego, and the amount of stuff that changed just between those two talks, which I think were like a couple of months apart, was huge. But there are a lot of things beyond the website that need to be looked at. So things like Reddit, Wikipedia, your visibility on social platforms, video content. So what are you doing on YouTube, TikTok? And this isn't paid activity on YouTube and TikTok. This is, do you have a voice there? Because all of these things are now feeding into AI, not just stuff on your website. And I won't spend long on this because we can send it over. But this is just a top level look at for each of the kind of core platforms at the moment. What are some of the higher priority things versus the general look at GEO? So as I say, this is something that is changing, and it's something that's projected to change even further. What I didn't say when we were looking at the Black Friday data with the two pie charts is that I think there was a bucket of about 20% of revenue that came from other sources from there. Now, AI traffic, anyone who's running us Ask Bosco, we pull out the AI traffic that can be tracked separately to other channels. That makes up, I think it was 0.5% overall. So we're still talking small numbers in terms of revenue driven, but as I say, it's the building trust, and that is going to grow considerably. And projections suggest that by 2029, 2029, traffic from AI sources is going to overtake traditional organic search. So I guess I've wailed on PPC a little bit and talked a little bit about why we should be focusing more on AI. So I suppose more practically, how are we doing it? I'm going to hand over to John.
So I thought I had my do not disturb on, but someone managed to call me on WhatsApp there. So sorry about that. Right, next slide, please, Dan. Also, it was one of the team, and they should be watching the webinar, really. So we've analysed over 254 clients on Ask Bosco, and that represents millions and millions of data points and nearly £1 billion worth of revenue. So this is statistically significant data. So, and we just wanted to sort of put all of everything Dan's been talking about, like, well, what are we actually seeing in the data? And I suppose what should you then do to work out where am I wasting potential money in PPC that I could unlock budget to put into SEO? Because if you took an average client, they might be spending, I don't know, 50 or £100,000 a month on Google clicks, but they're probably only spending £5,000 to £10,000 a month on SEO. And is that the right proportion? So next slide, please, Dan. So what we looked at here is we looked at the sessions from paid. So that was paid search, paid social shopping, PMAX, and that's 40%. Then we looked at the sessions from SEO, and then we looked at the revenue from paid, and then the revenue from SEO. So that sort of looks about right. But then if we break that down on the next slide, what we can see here, which I think if you're an SEO manager listening to this or in the marketing team and you're trying to convince your boss that you need more money to invest in better content, in better digital PR, in better video content to improve your AI visibility, this surely should be the conversation you're having, which is if we look at all the data here, every single metric for SEO is the organic traffic is higher. So the click-through rate, it's 1.6 versus 2.3. Average order value is higher, sort of 10% higher, and the conversion rate is more than double. So this is really sort of compelling factual. But I think the challenge is you've got to invest and put the time and effort in around a whole proper strategy. But what we're seeing at the moment is with a lot of our clients is the boardroom is interested in a strategy around AI overviews, and it's front of mind. So now is a good time to redress the balance. So next slide down, please. So what we can do within Asposco is identify where are you potentially overspending, or where can you reallocate your budgets. So if we go on to the next slide. So within what Asposco fundamentally does is it looks across all your marketing, and then it's looking at where, based on your inputs and your targets and what you're trying to do, it will then reallocate budgets to hit your objectives. But also within there, we can identify potentially sort of keywords that we maybe are overspending on, which we could be getting from SEO. So if we go to the next slide, this is sort of showing us campaigns here that we think we can reallocate. So this, what we're doing is we're looking not just at a sort of overall marketing level and a channel level, we're actually looking at a campaign level, and we're saying move budget from this one to achieve your objectives. So, and this isn't anything massively new. Dan probably could do a version of this a few years ago with a big spreadsheet, but it's whether or not he would do that every week, every month across all his different campaigns and all his different clients. So what we're doing is just making it easier for you to unlock the data, and AI and machine learning now and the ability to process millions of rows of data have just made this easier for us all to access this. So this is almost like an assistant for your PPC manager to work out where they should be moving their budgets around. But the big unlock is really analysing, right, where are we spending money on PPC that traffic is converting, we are getting sales, but we are not ranking in organic. And again, this requires collaboration between the SEO team, the PPC team. It requires joining up Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Google AdWords, and pulling all that data into one place. Maybe even SEMrush and other data sources. And again, people could do that, but how often do they actually do it? So we built a module within Asposco to really sort of answer that for a brand, to go, right, here's where you're spending money on PPC and it is working, but you don't rank in organic. So actually there's an opportunity, especially if the click-through rate is going to be double and the average order value is going to be 10% more, we should go and put an optimization plan together for those particular keywords. So if we went on to the next slide, you can actually get a list of keywords that we need to be optimizing for, and then you can go away and work with your team, work with your agency, and put together a content plan so that you're not only improving your SEO, but also going to be improving your visibility in the LLMs and Google AI overviews, which there's different tactics to do all of that. But good solid foundations in SEO, as Dan was saying, and good digital PR and brand mentions across the whole internet will improve this. So next slide. So for those of you who are digging around in your analytics a lot, you will have seen a drop off in click-through rate, and we've seen this across all our clients. Click-through rates over the last sort of 12 months have dropped significantly. But then if we look on the next slide, we've actually seen an increase in impressions, and that's because people are now getting the information on the SERP, right? So they're getting the answers, so they maybe don't even need to come to your website. So one thing that's just launched in America, which is about to be rolled out in the UK. So if you're on Shopify, you're going to be able to connect Shopify direct into ChatGPT via an MCP, right? So have a look. We can share a link afterwards about with an article of like how this is going to work. But basically, you could be saying, what are the top 10, I don't know, black trainers, I don't know, Nike Air Max or whatever, and it will give you the answer. But then it will also, if it's a Shopify store, give you the ability to potentially check out and buy it within ChatGPT. So that's really exciting because you're going to get potentially sales. However, from a tracking point of view, that's not even going to touch GA4 or anything else. And I suppose the next question is how are ChatGPT going to monetize that? Are they going to push that up? Are they going to charge you to do that? Is that something they're going to monetize with ads in the future? I suspect it will. And then my personal bet is I think when Gemini starts doing this as well, and they start pulling in shopping feeds, that's really when it's going to just really be super interesting. So you need to be visible, but then you'll have the opportunity to sponsor and push things up. So we're seeing lots and lots of impressions, but actually, if you can get your AI overviews and visibility right, you can actually get more traffic. And it's about making sure that you are getting those citations and the mentions, and you have the right, relevant, interesting content across all platforms. So we are seeing people get more traffic when they implement the right strategy. So, in summary, and we're doing well for time, we've got going to have 5 minutes for questions. So, there is a significant overlap with SEO and geo, and also it's small, as Dan mentioned, it's small numbers, but you need to be on it now. And there seems to be an urgency from senior people to go, like, what's the plan? What are we doing about this? Because it is so front of mind. And also, you need to think about building your broader community. When we were talking in San Diego in September, everybody was going on about Reddit, but I think that ship's already sailed and people have sort of already started. Classic marketeers looking for a quick hit. Everybody started spamming Reddit, and now Reddit stopped people doing that, and now the LLMs are saying we're going to discount Reddit, and that's not going to count. So, and there's going to be different tactics for different LLMs, but I would definitely start working out how to measure what visibility you're getting and also what traffic you're getting from the different LLMs, which is different from just the Google AI overviews. Okay, it's still relatively small, but it is only going to get bigger and bigger. And then also, if you're selling products, how can you make sure your products are visible directly in the LLMs? And I'd start with the data and start understanding, right, well, because the way Google's incentivized, especially with PMAX, to you set your goals and your target, and it will keep taking your money up to a certain point. So have a dig in the data and try and find the answers. Or if you want, we can help you do that with our AI audit. So next slide, Dan, which is there. So we should probably take some of the questions. I think there's one specifically
Yeah.
for you down there.
Yeah, so from Guy, hi Guy, nice to see you. So are you seeing a difference with B2C and B2B clients? Yes, we are. So generally, and this is across our agency clients versus a broader scope. So there may be some sort of bias versus our clients, but we are generally seeing more of an impact from AI and AI overviews and LLMs on B2B clients than we are on B2C. Now, there are some exceptions. So, and I think the exceptions are really kind of hint at the reason behind this. And I think it's that research piece. And I'm sure there are B2B businesses out there where it's a really straightforward product where users aren't doing sort of research into the like comparisons across multiple suppliers, things like that. But generally, for our B2B clients, we are seeing an increase in the impact of AI overviews and AI and LLMs more than B2C. So we suspect, and based on sort of the terms that we are tracking and we are seeing through triggering AI overviews, we suspect a lot of it is down to product comparison. So asking LLMs or Google to compare two specific platforms and get kind of a table like for like, but also just those general research questions. So yeah, there's a lot of visibility available out there for B2B in those higher funnel stages. And I suppose in terms of thinking B2B in general, one of the things that really encourage you to do is if you have a lead form or a sales process where you get the opportunity to ask your prospect sort of how they found out about you, put AI down as an option. Because a lot of this, again, from like AI overviews in particular, you're getting the visibility, and then that user may come direct and then fill out an inquiry form. So certainly there's value to asking those questions and getting more data. But yeah, the quick answer is yes, we are seeing more of an impact on
And
B2B than B2C.
And we had one. We had a new brand that came on board recently as a client that's an athleisure brand, and they'd asked ChatGPT which agency's good at working within the sort of growing and athleisure sort of sports brand. And because we had a case study from some of the work we'd been doing with Castor, it recommended us. And then the person contacted us directly and said, ChatGPT recommended you. So it is happening. But I think it's important if you are in B2B to close that loop and make sure, A, you've either got it on the form or that the sales guys doing the follow up really qualify where that's coming. And also start measuring those terms that historically, what are the questions that people were typing in to
Yeah.
Google to find your product? Then test and see if you're getting that visibility in the LLMs. So I think we've got
Yeah,
time to answer.
it is very similar to in the past SEO optimization for Google's instant answers and PAA. So people also ask, so using those as sources to find out, okay, well, what are the questions that people have when they're researching my product? Do I have content about that? And then sort of when we send the deck over and kind of looking at, you'll be able to see the different models and where they're finding some of the sources that they're getting data from. A lot of the whilst for SEO, we would always have a focus on link building. From the AI side, it's more traditional digital PR to make sure that there is more context behind that. Obviously, we'd love a link as well, but more context around the article, around the link. And even if we don't have a link, there is value to having that information out there in terms of, again, building that trust and something for the models to use as a
And
source as well.
one thing we've been testing with a client, so often you read those articles, say on Which, and it's the top 10 this or the top 10 that. You can actually pay for sort of almost like advertorial sort of affiliate content. Historically, from an SEO point of view, affiliate type content wouldn't rank or wouldn't count towards a ranking factor. But in the LLMs, we have seen that sort of content getting mentioned. I don't know if that's going to carry on being a thing, but it's quite an easy thing to test. So you could buy some affiliate articles and content articles and see does around terms that you want or questions that you want to answer, and that's quite a quick and easy way to distribute and get your footprint, and also just broader brand mentions even without links on authoritative sites. We're seeing having an impact, whereas before people were like, I'm not interested in a brand mention, I want the link with a high domain authority. But actually just having the brand mention now is really, really helpful. So I think we're out of time, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us. We will send around the slides and a recording. And if you would like the audit, hopefully you've scanned the QR code and we will get in touch and arrange that for you. Or if you've got any other questions or you want to pick Dan's brains, because he's clearly the smart one here, and you can have a conversation direct with Dan and he can answer more questions directly for you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.